said, this team was smarting a bit earlier this week, but he didn't want them to live in the past.
That's this league. It happens. I mean, it sucks, and you want to do everything you can to not let it happen. And 100%, we should have won the game. Self-inflicted things. That's why we lost, and we gave it away in our opinion. But we know that, and you can't do that in this league. And that's where credit Miami. They made the plays, so you can't ever take anything away from another team because we've been in that same position where we've won games like that. So we know where we're at. It's week one. Of course, every game's important, so we don't take it lightly. But we also understand it is a long season, and we have a lot of confidence in our team and the group we have, and we do need to improve and not make those mistakes and not continue to make those mistakes. There were some things in the game where we have to get better, but I also think, if you watch the game and you really look at it play for play, there was a lot of bright spots. We did a lot of good things, and moving forward, that gives us a lot of confidence. So that's stuff that we're going to correct, we're going to fix, and we have to. So you can't take it lightly. You have to be really intentional this week to improve and learn from those things. But at the end of the day, it is the NFL, and you got to move on. If you're still thinking about how the game went on Sunday, on Wednesday, we're trying to get ready for the Browns. We can't be thinking about the Dolphins anymore.
Yeah, I would think that's one of the toughest parts of being a professional because I tell you what, the fan base did not move on that quickly this week for sure. And look, it is a long season, but 2 years ago you won the AFC South by a single game. Last year you missed the playoffs by a single game. You never know when that one game is going to be the one that gets you. Now, hopefully, with all this laid out in front of them still, the Jags are able to overcome this and maybe steal one or two that you felt like they shouldn't have won along the way. But regardless, it's this one that you feel should have been in the win column.
I've been saying since last year, they went 1-4 in the big games that were on their schedule. And now it's just win a game, right? This is a big game today because you don't want to go 0-2. The numbers say 0-2 makes it a mountain to climb to make the postseason. So that makes this a really important game today. It's a big game.
Well, 0-2, getting ready to go on the road against a team that's going to be so well rested, the Buffalo Bills, going from Thursday to the following Monday. So, yeah, you got to get this one.
All right, the guy who fumbled the ball last week, who you would imagine would have had a longer week than almost everyone else, talked a little bit about his mindset. Jaguars are counting on him. He's an 11-touchdown guy, a 1,000-yard guy from a year ago. They need him to be back in the game mentally and physically today. He talked about the 24-hour rule.
It definitely was a hard, I would like to say first 48. I would say,
not 24.
Not 24. No, this one took 48. This one hit me deep down in the core, just because, we work hard all season, all off season, all training camp. Nobody sees that. Nobody sees the grind that we put in day and day out, man. We here each and every day just grinding our butts off. And for us to come out there and play that well and just kind of lose the game is unfortunate. But in the NFL, you have to continue to move. You have to go forward. And I had to learn from that mistake, move forward, so I don't let the same mistake bite me twice, And I feel like we have a great team around us. Just the brotherhood that we have. I feel like a bunch of people on the team just came to me, man, like, you're the one. Just keep believing in yourself. We believe in you. We know what you can do. And I feel like that's what's going to get us over the hump this year. And that's what's going to make us such a great team on the back end. And I feel like I'm just proud to be with these guys and playing for these guys.
Look, the loss certainly wasn't all on Travis Etienne, but that was the most critical turning point moment of the football game. And I don't think he was being careless with the ball, but it's one of those, Brian, that it doesn't matter how well you're protecting it. You can't allow the defender to make that play.
Listen, you have to have situational awareness. You're in the tight red zone. You haven't run away from the defense. They're coming to get you. I don't think we'll see that from him again. I mean, I think you're going to see him covering up when he finds himself
and he was
in that
trying
situation.
to. I mean,
yes.
You look, the moment Javon Holland made probably the defensive play of the week.
All-pro play.
But Etienne is about 6 inches from having that right hand securing the ball. I mean, but he didn't.
Right.
And that's the difference between winning and losing sometimes.
Well, I mean, I watched some of the San Francisco-New York game on Monday night, and Breece Hall almost had the ball knocked out by Fred Warner the exact same way. I mean, they're all coming punching for it.
Absolutely.
You just have to be aware of it. All right, the Jaguars defense played pretty well last week, and you saw that pass rush that we have been talking about impact the quarterback. Not nearly enough, but Trayvon Walker got 2 sacks, and of course Eric Armstead had a big sack in the second half. The guy who didn't get one wants to get started today against a quarterback in Deshaun Watson, who was sacked 6 times by the Cowboys last Sunday.
That's a great start. He's off to a great start, something that you want to, as any rusher, you want to start off hot. And so for him, it's just to keep going. Stay relentless, which I know he is. And he can also win one-on-ones when the time's needed to. So I'm really excited, playing a little catch-up right now. So I'm going to give me a big one here soon. Him and Eric both, but, that's what we're supposed to do.
Well, today would be a great day to get that started, right? The Browns are beat up on the offensive line. Shadrick Wills won't play. Their left tackle. Now, Jack Conklin, I talked to some Cleveland media this week who were surprised he wasn't able to go last week. He got in some limited practice. He's officially questionable. He'll probably swing over to the left side, but he won't be 100%.
No.
And DeJuan Jones, who, much like Anton Harrison, had a nice rookie season last year, struggled in week 1. So I think this is a great opportunity for both Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker.
All right, one of the big stories from last week was Brian Thomas Jr. 4 catches, 47 yards, set up both touchdowns. And not to talk about how they didn't get the ball to him enough in the second half, because I think we talked about that a lot this week. But what he means going forward today and how he impacts a defense, because Evan Ingram had 1 catch. Christian Kirk was largely forgettable last week, except for a couple of drops. I don't think we'll see that again because of what Evan Ingram's about to tell you about Brian Thomas Jr.
It's a huge spark for our team. Huge spark, and I told him today actually, you may be a rookie, you might be quiet, but that energy you had on Sunday, the confidence that we saw come out of you, that's going to help our team. We see it and we feel it. So whatever he's been doing, he needs to keep doing it, and he has a bright future ahead. And it's only his first game. He's going to continue to learn. He's going to continue to get better and get more accustomed to the game and our offense. So, man, I can't wait to play alongside him for the rest of the season and just watch him grow.
Whatever he's eating, I want some of that. I think Evan Ingram is expressing. But look, Brian, I'm not saying he has to be this, but I think Brian Thomas Jr. is potentially ready to be the number 1 wide receiver on this team.
He sure looked like
right
it.
now,
yeah.
Right? And because he brings a skill set that nobody else has on this roster in the complete package of height, speed, toughness, ability to catch the ball. He's shown he can run more routes than he was given credit for at LSU. So very excited to see where it goes.
Best young receiver the Jaguars have had on their roster since?
Allen Robinson.
Okay.
I'll give you that. I mean, let's not forget how good AR was early in his career here. So.
That was his second year, and he was outstanding.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since they've had that blend of size and speed and playmaking ability.
I think the ceiling is even higher because of the speed.
Yeah.
Right? Allen Robinson was a good player. He could get down the field deep, and he could high point the ball. He did it in a different way. Brian Thomas will run right by you.
The safeties for the Browns are going to know where he is today, and that's going to open something up. Whether it's both Ingram and Kirk or Ingram or Kirk, you can't take everything away with a player like Brian Thomas.
And Juan Thornhill, their free safety, is not going to play today. And they like to play Grant Delpit up kind of as a hybrid linebacker safety, so you wonder if that's going to change their coverage plans on the back end. I wonder, is Denzel Ward going to give Brian Thomas Jr. the wide receiver 1 treatment today?
Ooh. Well, that'll be a fun matchup to watch. All right, the Jaguars were 3-5 at home last year, Mike, which was surprising because at the end of 2022, they won huge games here, Dallas and Baltimore, and then the Titans and the Chargers. So we were all a little surprised they didn't play well at home. Doug Peterson doesn't talk a lot about playing well at home, but he understands why you want to.
You want to win at home. You want to win in front of your fans. I think it's great for your players and your organization, obviously, to do that. And, it's just I don't necessarily spend a lot of time, focusing on that as much as just continuing to do our jobs and no matter where we play, you try to win the game. But ultimately, at home, it matters. It matters in front of your fans and, your city. And we just hope that this Sunday will be a great crowd.
Home field advantage, I think, has become less of a big deal, but it's still a deal to some degree. And when you've got the support of the fan base, when they know when to be quiet, when they know when to be loud, it matters. And like Doug Peterson mentioned, like your fans want to get paid off for all their support, and you only get so many of these opportunities, and you're getting ready to go right back on the road for some tough games. So got to take advantage today.
Might as well light the fire here at home.
Let's go
today. All right, more sound coming up. In the second hour of the Publix Tailgate Show with JP Shadrick at the top of the hour at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Jags fans, are you Duval enough to become the Jaguars 2024 Fan of the Year, where you'll earn a trip to Super Bowl 59? Visit NFL.com/Fan of the Year to nominate someone today. I was driving in this morning, and I saw a little alert pop up on my phone that I had an email from E to the T.
Yes, a present.
It has been a long time, and he has battled with a couple of injuries. He's been on the injury report since before training camp began, but we have radio magic for you today for the first time in the year 2024. So let's get to Come On Somebody.
It's been a long time since we've won at the bank.
Cross to the right to Travis Etienne. Got a little bit of a block. 40, 45. Pull on the right sideline. 40, 35, 30, 25. Travis Etienne still on his feet. Travis Etienne to the goal line. Touchdown! Travis Etienne, an explosive run.
December 31st, 2023.
Young rambles to the right now, looking downfield, still looking down points downfield. That ball's tipped. It is picked off. Antonio Johnson's running it back.
259 days to be exact.
He drops. They send 4 only. They hit him. They're going to sack him again. Josh Allen got him again. Back at the 42-yard line. Nice work. A second sack of the day. And the career sack leader for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Josh Allen.
Oh, what a day it was.
The 9th shutout in the history of the Jacksonville Jaguars. How good is that?
To win a ball game, it's not about the play calling. It's about the Jimmies and Joes.
Come on, somebody.
Execute the play and win the game.
The Jags will win this thing 26-0.
Come on, 2024 season, baby. 2024 season. You know what that means?
What it mean?
30 seasons, baby.
Big 3-0. Dirty 30.
30 years of existence the Jaguars have been in. Oh, my goodness. I love them.
Me too.
Love them so much.
I love them boys.
I'm 39 years old, and for 30 years of my 39 years, I have loved these fools through trials and tribulations, through bad quarterbacks.
Don't remind me.
And bad quarterbacks and bad quarterbacks. But guess what? I ain't got to worry about that no more. I got T-Law for the next 7 years, baby, and beyond.
Oh, you talking nasty.
That's my quarterback.
One more time, they'll take a knee.
180.
And that will do it. The two teams will shake hands. This was a win you needed in the worst way.
In a win we won in the worst way today. We back at EverBank Stadium. Don't beat me there. Beat me there. Come on, somebody.
And it is time to let's go.
He's back.
He rose to the moment.
He did. He always does. The irony is, of course, the last time the Jags won at home, it was EverBank Stadium. And you got to go back to November of last year for Trevor to get a W here in Jacksonville.
That was so long ago, 290 days ago. I did the math on that. This team and this town need a win together, and they need it today. Doesn't matter who they were playing, right? If it was Carolina in here, they would need it. But the fact that it's the Browns, a team that's a playoff team from a year ago, a team that has playoff aspirations this year, this qualifies as a big game. So come on, let's get it done.
Let's go. Come on, somebody.
All right, well, coming up in the Publix Tailgate show.
I mean, Doug's my first year in the NFL was Doug's last year in Kansas City, and we started 1-5. We won our first one, lost 5 in a row, and then we won 12 straight.
Center Mitch Morse is one game in as the quarterback of the offensive line. He likes where they're at and where he believes they're headed in this week's Baptist Health player interview. Plus, CBS Sports senior writer Pete Prisco visits with Mike. You're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Touchdown at Jaguars away games when you fly nonstop from Jacksonville International Airport. Join the Jaguars in Miami and Houston. Watch them win in Philly, Detroit, Nashville, and Las Vegas. All the other Jaguars games are just one short connection away. And if airport parking has you stressed, be sure to visit the Jax Airport website before traveling to the terminal. On it, you'll find information about the status of on-airport parking in real time. See if your favorite areas are available or if you need to call an audible. Visit flyjax.com for more information.
Headquartered in Jacksonville, Florida, CSI Companies partners with leading healthcare and technology organizations nationwide to deliver workforce solutions. CSI prides itself on building meaningful relationships and provides personalized operations to fuel the success of businesses, both big and small. Whether it's finding the right talent for a job or seamlessly managing a project from start to finish, CSI has 3 decades of experience in getting the job done. This is your workforce solutions reimagined. Visit CSICompanies.com.
Hey fans, it's Tyson Campbell, cornerback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This season, your game day is getting even tastier with Al's Pizza in the stadium. And every time we get a pick, you'll score. If the Jaguars get 1 interception, you'll enjoy buy one, get one free pizza at any Al's Pizza location Monday through Thursday after the home game. 2 interceptions, a free dessert. And 3 interceptions, that's a free appetizer. Just tell them you want the Jags pick. Up your game and get your Al's Pizza at the game or any of their locations.
Want to make sure he gets to the game on time?
Tommy, your uniform is ready. Let's go.
Install a natural gas dryer, and you're guaranteed faster drying times and softer laundry. And now you can earn a valuable cash rebate up to $200 on an energy-efficient natural gas dryer. Show your home love with natural gas, and it loves you right back. To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, they total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
And welcome back. Home opener today, and the Publix Tailgate Show continues to prepare you for the Jaguars and Browns, coming up with a 1 o'clock kickoff at EverBank Stadium.
Got to catch yourself.
Well,
make sure you get it out
listen,
right.
It's genius. I love it. Let's see him go and make this place his own today and play as well as he possibly can. Put everything behind himself and this team, though he didn't play that bad, that this team needs this week. And you kind of visited with Pete Prisco about that.
I did, and we mentioned earlier it is tough for the fans to put a loss like that behind them, but, emphasize with Pete and, the ability and the desire of this team to do just that, and how tough it is on these players to put a loss behind them when they felt like they should have won.
Well, in the NFL, you have to. I mean, and that's the task of the coaches this week, and even the leaders of that team. You have to flush it. You have to move on. It was an opportunity lost because they should have won the football game. But as you'll sit there, watch the tape, and then you move on to the next game. There's 16 more of them. You have to be able to move on, and I think they will. At times, if you got a losing streak going, it might be tougher. But I think one game opening day, you move past it, and I think they will.
All right, Jags were 2 of 10 on third down for a variety of reasons last week, so they couldn't sustain drives. They ended up not having a ton of offensive plays, but they only dropped back to throw it 24 times, ended up passing it 21 times, second lowest in the league. What do you think the approach is offensively this week versus Cleveland?
Well, you better block Myles Garrett if you want to throw it, and I think they need to throw it, Mike. I was critical of that. I think they need to get the ball down the field, and they have weapons. And when you have a tight end who had over 100 catches last year, had 3 targets. That's not enough. You had drops to sustain drives, so that hurt their continuity and their rhythm. But they need to get the ball to their playmakers, and I think they will. And I think they have to start this week. I mean, that's way too few passes in a game. You have to be able to drive the ball down the field. We saw what Brian Thomas could do. He can stretch a defense. Well, if he can stretch a defense, then you come underneath him and you start hitting those shots underneath. And make them, pay for doubling him if he starts doubling him. So I do think there's a chance that they open things up this week.
Tank Bigsby had the same amount of carries as Travis Etienne. Played a lot fewer snaps, though, Pete. Did you like the division of labor that you saw out of the Jags backfield?
I mean, I still think that, Bigsby is a power guy, and he ran hard. And I think, but you can use Etienne so many different ways in the passing game and getting him out in the screen game and everything else. I still think that Etienne is the number one back, but it's nice to have that change of pace guy. It's nice to have a guy you could put in short yardage. But, hey, if short yardage doesn't matter if you can't block, and the run blocking wasn't very good, so it's still a problem.
Well, Cleveland, speaking of teams that can't block, were without both their offensive tackles last week. They're getting a little bit healthier up front, but they gave up the most sacks in the league with 6, tons of pressure. This should be a day where Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker has some success, no?
It should be. And, their tackles have been banged up, but they were banged up a year ago, and Deshaun Watson looked lost last week. But this is definitely an opportunity for those pass rushers to get up the field and attack the quarterback. I thought the defense did some nice things last week. They did get some pressures. They limited the run game, the Miami run game. If you limit the Cleveland run game and get pressure that way, I think that's important. So, yeah, I think this is a definite opportunity for them to get up the field and attack Deshaun Watson.
A lot of talk about Deshaun Watson dropping his eye level, right? And that happens when you're aware of the rush coming in. And it's understandable when you're missing your top 2 offensive tackles. But speaking with numerous people up in Cleveland this week, Pete, there is just a major concern that Deshaun Watson's never going to even approach the level of quarterback he used to be. Now, he played a total of 12 games in that 3-year period before starting things up at the Browns. But based on what you saw last week and just where things stand in his career right now, what is the ceiling for Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, Mike, it's concerning. I mean, you watch that tape, and he was dreadful. I mean, even simple things like a 4th down play, he takes a sack instead of making a throw down the field when you're down to try and get something happening. So what if it's picked off? It just little things, and he threw out of bounds a couple times. He was inaccurate. And you're right, his eye level came down. It wasn't good, and he's got a lot of things going on in his life. And so I think, his football has to be better. If it's not, they're going to make a change. And Jameis Winston's sitting there on the bench. I mean, I think there's an opportunity to make a change.
Pete, no Tyson Campbell, but also no David Njoku on the other side. I think that's probably, for this week, maybe a net advantage for the Jags based on what Njoku was able to do against them last year.
Yeah, and again, if the pressure's there, you're not going to have to worry about so much down the field stuff. So I think that kind of negates that, and the fact that they couldn't block last week, really kind of, you think that's going to happen this week. So I think you can deal with not having Tyson Campbell in there, maybe more so than them not having Njoku in there, who's a quick outlet for him and get the ball to him. So yeah, I would agree with you. I think that's an advantage. Now the guys that step in, Brown did some good things last week, and he's got to step in and play. And I think the secondary actually did a really nice job last week. They were aggressive. They were tough. They matched up when they had to and man-to-man and held up. So aside from a play or two, the crosser to Waddle and the deep over to Tyreek Hill where, Cisco made a bad play on it. Other than that, they played pretty well.
All right, what's the Prisco pick for the Jags home opener?
Jacksonville's not going to 0-2 against Deshaun Watson. They just aren't. There's no way. And so I think that they get it together offensively and decide, you know what, we can throw the football. Let's throw it. They'll throw it. They'll keep an extra guy in once in a while to block Myles Garrett, and they will make plays down the field. So I think they win the game, and I think the offense comes alive.
I think the one thing I would take up with the Pete there is their willingness to bench Deshaun Watson if it goes poorly. All that guaranteed money that you've got to go to Jameis Winston. I was told by 2 different reporters this summer, Brian, that they didn't bring Joe Flacco back because he was so popular. They were afraid that if Watson struggled, there'd be a quarterback controversy early in the season, and they didn't want to have to force their hand and make that move.
Interested to see how he plays today. Obviously, played poorly last week, was on his back a lot, had the story come out about yet another lawsuit coming his way, and then he had some personal issues too. Yeah. So it's a horrible story. And he's a guy who it just feels as if maybe we're seeing the last of him.
Well,
maybe not during this season,
right?
But it feels like he's coming to a close.
I tell you, well, and he's got a couple more years guaranteed. We'll see how this lawsuit affects that. If he gets suspended, the Browns can get out of this deal, and I don't know at that point which NFL club would be that amenable to bringing him in.
It's a reminder that the Jaguars, even though they haven't taken the step where they want to go, having a quarterback that you can rely on, because they can rely on where Trevor is right now, and they hope that he gets better, is a huge deal in the NFL.
No question.
It's why you pay them when you got
money.
it. Exactly. Why you pay them when you get there. Well, our player interview this week is presented once again by Baptist Health, changing healthcare for good. The Jaguars struggled to run the ball last season. On 3rd down and short, they were at the bottom of the league, and they needed to keep the offense on the field. They need to keep the offense on the field this week because last week in Miami, they were just 2 of 10 on 3rd down. General Manager Trent Baalke and the head coach acted swiftly to bring Mitch Morse to Jacksonville. He's a veteran with big game experience in Buffalo and Kansas City. He's been a good fit so far and told me this week that Miami was a good beginning for where this offensive line needs to go.
Yeah, I think we left a little meat on the bone performance-wise, but the thing that was it gave me a lot of optimism was communication, especially on the road against a a team that could do quite a bit on defense within that Baltimore scheme, how multiple they are. So I think it just comes down to execution and fixing communication a little bit. But, it's one of those things you want to compound and create hopefully some momentum. It does help when you win to create that momentum. But we're not all pessimistic here about that performance in regards to the communication aspect of it, which we can fix the technique.
Doug talked in the offseason about bringing guys like you in who had been there and done that before, who had experienced the highs and the lows. Do you see a team that is resilient or that has to develop resiliency?
Well, I think it's tough to say in week one. All right, I like what I see. Doug's my first year in the NFL was Doug's last year in Kansas City, and we started 1-5. We won our first one, lost 5 in a row, and then we won 12 straight to go to the playoffs. So it's just like, I've been around so many things, right? You don't want that to happen. But if you go into a stretch of games or a game and you let that compound, negative or positive, it becomes a very long season mentally. And it becomes a long season on the field, productive-wise, because then you're either drinking the Kool-Aid or you think you're a POS, can't play ball club, which is not what we are. We do have to fix some stuff. There's no doubt about it. It's not all highs, but it's not all lows either. So hopefully, I know it's a very roundabout answer, but hopefully that answers it.
Tell me about Cleveland. I know you've seen them. They're a team that prides themselves on being this big physical front, and they were the best defense in football last year. What have you seen from them?
Well, I think when you look at the AFC North in general, they pride themselves on very smash-mouth football. And, yeah, I could see how they are the number one defense last year, and they put together a very good defensive game. The score might not show it, but the way they play, how the physicality in which they play, there's no doubt that they are a very good team and a very good defense in Jim Schwartz, and it starts with that front four.
You're coming off a really productive game on the ground as offensive lineman. That's got to be something that you greatly appreciate. How much better can you be in the running game?
Oh, that's the beautiful thing about the running game, right? It's easy to see from the all-22 what you miss. But we want to continue to compound the good stuff and then fix the little things here and there. This team is a very good run-stopping defense. So for us, it'll be a great challenge.
Tell me about opening at home as a final thought. And it's hot here, obviously. Not quite necessarily as hot as Miami, but a loud crowd. This is going to be a place that's excited about this football team's potential.
We're excited to have that opportunity. It's a privilege to play in front of the home team and play in the home crowd, especially a season opener. And it's just a blessing. And you realize that the longer you're in the league, how much of a blessing it is.
When you talk to Mitch Morse, you understand why they brought him in. Doug and Trent talked about bringing guys in who'd been there, done that, played in big games, had been in tough situations, and he has been. He was not fazed at all by what he saw last week, and you could see the guys rallying around him on the practice field.
Yeah, he's been around. Most of the free agents they brought in this offseason have been in winning organizations, and not only that, he played well last week. By many accounts, the best offensive lineman the Jags had on the field last week, so let's hope he keeps that up as well.
All right, coming up in 15 minutes, Hall of Famer Tony Boselli and Jeff Lageman join us from the broadcast booth. But up next,
guys are dialed in. They're focused on trying to get better, every day, just trying to stack days and know that the season is long.
Jaguars pass rush is off to a great start with 3 sacks on opening day. We'll visit with Bill Shuey. The Jaguars and Browns coming up from EverBank Stadium in Jacksonville. This is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
The kick is up. It's good!
Score winning sub deals this Jaguar season at Firehouse Subs. Receive 50% off on any sub when the Jaguars kick a field goal of 40 yards or more. It's a bold deal for the bold city. Download the Firehouse Subs app for offer details. Redeemable only at participating Jacksonville and Orlando area restaurants. Only available in the Firehouse Subs app.
How do you get him to a healthy future? Start with Nemours Children's Health. Our dedicated pediatricians and pediatric specialists provide all the care and support that you and your child need when it's needed most. Because keeping him well today will help ensure his very best tomorrow, so he can grow up to be whoever he wants to be. Nemours Children's Health. Well, beyond medicine.
Frank Frangie here. When you want barbecue in Jacksonville, you want Bono's Pit Barbecue. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at EverBank Stadium, because Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over 70 years of authentic Southern Pit Barbecue. We are the local barbecue joint in BBQville for generations of people in Jacksonville. Go to bonosbarbecue.com to learn more or call 904-880-8310 today. And remember, if you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
It's storm season, and JEA is committed to keeping you informed. In the event of a storm, we'll text and email you about the status of your services. We use Facebook and Twitter to post real-time updates. Our live outage map on JEA.com lets you track restoration progress. And as crews work to restore services, our storm outreach team will be in local neighborhoods to answer your questions. Because as your community utility, JEA is here to keep you safe and connected. Your community, your utility.
Calling all loyal Jags fans and loyal Gate customers, football is back. And you and 3 friends could win a chance to meet Trevor Lawrence. Entering is easy. Just buy any 5 28-ounce Gatorade or Gatorade Zero products at Gate with your MyGate Rewards app, and you'll be automatically entered. Not a MyGate Rewards member? Download the app and sign up today. See store for details. Alternate entry available at GatoradePromos.com/TLAW.
And we're back on the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. Brian and Mike with you from the Hyundai Studios in the Miller Electric Center. The Jaguars and Browns coming up at 1 o'clock from EverBank Field Stadium. That's the one that gets me more than anything else, right? A bank that works so hard, you'll think it works just for you. Get in the game at trevorbank.com. And it's time for our weekly commentary with Rick Ballou.
Patience. It's a word Jags fans detest. Yeah, but 30 years, you should never be told to be patient after some of the, as Nick Foles said, trials and tribulations that you have to deal with. But going back to when Nick made that comment, very interesting. It was as if he never did research to this organization. It's almost as if he saw the AFC Championship game, then went ahead 2 weeks later and knocked off the New England Patriots to win the Super Bowl. Doug Peterson, your coach. Well, that's Jacksonville. Imagine Cleveland. They've been around forever. The NFL merger. They remain one of 12 teams who have never won a Super Bowl. They're also one of 4 teams who have never been. That includes your Jaguars, also Houston and Detroit. Get this, though. 38 different quarterbacks since they returned to the NFL in 1999. That included in 2000, Doug Peterson. He had 8 starts for Cleveland. He replaced Tim Couch. Chris Palmer, former offensive coordinator of the Jaguars, of course, was the coach for Cleveland back in 2000. Now you entered Deshaun Watson. 3rd year. He's played 13 games. It is one of the worst contracts in the history of the NFL. He is mired in controversy. He's been injured. Right now, just got done playing a game in which he had the lowest QBR of his career. Also did not complete a pass that went 15 yards or more in 9 attempts. They're already asking for Jameis Winston. $44.8 million went into his pocket about 25 days ago. Now he is still owed more than $93 million guaranteed over the next 3 years. Love the Jaguars today. Think they win big, even up their season at 1 apiece. Enjoy the game.
You can catch Into the Night with Rick Ballou weeknights from 6 to 8 on 1010 XL. Whether he's the story in Cleveland today or not, Deshaun Watson is absolutely the storyline here in Jacksonville.
Oh, I think that's all they're talking about in Cleveland right now is not only, what's going on off the field, but how poorly he played and how he has looked, and really just hasn't looked like the same guy. And it's somewhat understandable. Sure. I mean, including last year, he's played 12 games in a 3-year span. You can lose it. we've seen it happen before, and they're banking on him finding it, and right now it doesn't look like he's going to.
He has never lost to the Jaguars, but he hasn't played the Jaguars since 2020, and he was with a very good Texans team with DeAndre Hopkins. The Jaguars hope to throw him off today with their pass rush, and Bill Shuey has a great job. He's the guy who coaches Josh Hines-Allen, Trayvon Walker, and Eric Armstead. Who wouldn't love working with those guys? Shuey was called the outside linebackers coach last year when they ran a 3-4 scheme. In this new scheme, we just call him the guy who coaches the guys who go get the quarterback. He has 3 outstanding players who all want to be the best in the business. And I asked him this week what worked in Miami last week and why.
Well, I think guys are just working really hard. It's there's a lot of excitement. It's the beginning part of the season, so guys are dialed in. They're focused on trying to get better. Every day, just trying to stack days and know that the season is long, and so just trying to be better at the end than we are now.
So tell me, as your guys look for a shout-out, they deserve everything they've got. At 285 pounds each, how does that change the dynamic?
Well, you're thinking that the increase in size should give them a little more power. And so, obviously our goal on first down is to stop the run, and then, so we get a chance to rush the passer. So it's all kind of works together there. And then in the pass game, with the extra power, what does that give you as a pass rusher in terms of what your pass rush repertoire is, where what's your ID, like what are you made out of, like what are other people going to think about when you're rushing out there at 285?
So they're both essentially playing defensive end this year. Are you a defensive line coach now? How does that work with this system?
Well, it's kind of like, it's really just, it is essentially that, but it really, when you think about in the 34 as an outside linebacker coach, when you're playing nickel 75% of the time, you're essentially a DN coach then as well. So that's really not much different. It's really just for the 20-25% that we might have been outside linebackers last year and a little bit more involved in coverage last year. It's a little bit less of that part of it this year and a little more tied in and dialed in with the D-line stuff.
Tell me about what you've seen from Josh Hines-Allen. Got the big deal last spring. He looks fantastic. What's your experience been with him?
Yeah, I love working with Josh. He's a hard worker. He likes to practice, and he loves watching film. So he's always got good questions. He comes in on Wednesday already armed with material that he's watched or questions that he has, and so that's part of the process. Going back to what helped him with his success in previous years is that he comes in prepared, and then he works Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all the way up through the game. Making sure that he's going to try to take advantage of every possibility that he can.
But this is really important to him, right?
Yeah, for a guy, you think, all right, so a guy signed a big deal, and maybe that was a goal of his, and which it probably was, but at the end of the day, that's not what drives him. And so, he does want to be the best version of himself that he can be. And so, I'm sure the money's good and it takes care of his family and that, but he does have a lot of motivation within himself. He's intrinsically motivated to be the best version of himself and trying to be the best player that he can be.
That's really rubbing off on Trayvon, I think, too, and talking to them. And, of course, 2 sacks to open the season. I thought he was going to have a big year based on what I watched during the preseason. What do you see from Trayvon?
It's good to see those guys. People talk about iron sharpens iron, but they're also they're friends, but they're competitors also. So they obviously competing against the guy across from them, but they really compete against themselves and within each other, between each other. So it's good in that one guy's always he sees something. They're going to help each other out, but they're also competing with each other to try to bring out the best versions of themselves that they can. So Trayvon's a hard worker. He's a dialed-in guy. He's not a whole lot of extracurricular type stuff. He's business when he's in the meeting room, when he's on the field. And I love working with the guy. And those 2 guys, the work ethic of those 2 guys and how they drive and lead the group is really good. And I think it sets a good tone for the younger guys that are trying to develop and earn more playing time.
Tell me about them, because those guys can't play 85 to 90% of the snaps. Who can you count on amongst that other group?
Yeah, so obviously you got a veteran guy like Eric who's easing his way back into some things, and hopefully his playing time can increase as we go. But you got Myles Cole, coming in. He's going to try to earn some more playing time. Those are the active guys. Then you have the guys on practice squad where, you got Joe and DJ who are really just, at any given time, they're 1 snap away from having to suit up and play the next week. And so they need to take that mindset, every day in the film session and then on practice, whether they're on the look team or not, whatever it is, to make sure they're getting better every day.
That's fine. Let's finish with this, and that is, you don't win every week in the National Football League. It's what you do the next week. How have you seen this team bounce back from a disappointing loss in Miami?
Yeah, it is disappointing, but at the same time, sometimes you don't always have a lot of control over the outcome. You want to give the most, you want to have as much control as you can, but sometimes things work out a certain way. When there's a long season, you really want to focus on each day, each week, getting a little bit better. So that way, if you take it that way, by the time you get to week 17, you're the best version of yourself, and you're way better than you were at the beginning, and you're making a push for the playoffs at that point, hopefully, and you're playing your best ball as we get into December, January, and February. That's the plan. And so that's how I want those guys to look at things. I always try to break the season up in quarters, so that way you're not always looking all the way to January. Let's look at this first, one game at a time, but let's look at the first quarter. So we'll do an analysis every week, but let's look at analysis every quarter, every month, and kind of see where we're at. What are we at as a player? What's our production look like? What can we do to get better? Is there an area of focus that we need to refocus on? So that's kind of where we're at right now. We're in the first quarter of the season. We have one game in. The outcome wasn't what we wanted, but can we get better from that to try to get the outcomes we want moving forward?
I'll be interested to see if there's a Trayvon effect or a Josh effect today. In other words, will one open it up for the other? I mean, Josh Allen saw a lot of chip blocks last week. Trayvon got 2 sacks. You can't ignore 44 over there on the other side. And then you mix 91 in, and the Jaguars are, working him into the lineup in money downs in particular situations, and he delivered. So it'll be interesting to see how those 3 guys play together, but it's a really nice thing that Bill Shuey has to work with.
Right, you keep double-teaming Josh Hines-Allen. Trayvon Walker's going to have a monster season, and the beauty is for Bill Shuey, he's got talented guys, but he's got guys with drive that matches or exceed that talent, and that's a wonderful situation to find yourself in.
Armstead, just a thought on him. They've lined him up as a defensive tackle, but Mike, he's so tall, so big, so long in terms of his arms. You could put him in end. He's not necessarily an edge guy. You wouldn't think of him that way, but he's got moves. I mean, he can play it.
There's a lot of talk about that throughout the offseason and training camp as how they're going to deploy him, and a lot of people do think he'll end up playing quite a bit of end, and he came up with that big sack on a key third down last week. Unfortunately, it went in the loss.
Tough to get away from a guy with that kind of a reach. Looking for the MVP of the truck game, folks? You better check out the 2020 Ford F-150. It's loaded with impressive capability and game-changing technology. You can dominate work, play, and everything in between. Test drive an F-150 at your local Ford dealer. They're a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, coming up at the top of the hour, Hour 2 of the Publix Tailgate Show with J.P. Shadrick and Mike Dempsey. When we return, Jeff Lageman and Hall of Famer Tony Boselli join us from the broadcast booth. The Browns and Jaguars kick off at 1 o'clock in Week 2 from EverBank Stadium. You're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Big Number 1 Duval Ford is trusted by Duval families, Duval businesses, and law enforcement across Florida. We are Jacksonville's largest Ford dealer by Ford sales, with the biggest service facility to keep everything in your driveway on the road. Shop Big Number 1 Duval Ford on Cassett Avenue for our low prices and nationally recognized service-first experience. Big Number 1 Duval Ford, proudly serving Duval since 1916.
Hey Jags fans, Extreme isn't always about heat, it's about flavor. And 505 knows flavor, so wake up those sleepy taste buds with 505's new lineup of premium craft salsa. Powered by the bud-kicking boldness of fire-roasted Hatch Valley chilies, 505 salsas are more than enough to bulk up any simple spread. Ignite your sense of boldness with 505's all-new assortment of fiercely fiery flavors featuring 505's new black bean and corn craft salsa. And of course, 505's award-winning flagship flavor, Southwestern style.
Brooks Rehabilitation is proud to be the official rehabilitation partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. We are here for them, and we are here for you. Ranked #1 physical rehabilitation hospital in Florida by U.S. News and World Report, our playbook is individualized treatment and exceptional care to get you back to living your life. Brooks has cutting-edge technology and therapy solutions in every care setting, treating sports injury, orthopedics, brain, spinal injuries, and more. Go beyond your expectations with Brooks Rehabilitation.
Headquartered in Jacksonville, Florida, CSI Companies partners with leading healthcare and technology organizations nationwide to deliver workforce solutions. CSI prides itself on building meaningful relationships and provides personalized operations to fuel the success of businesses, both big and small. Whether it's finding the right talent for a job or seamlessly managing a project from start to finish, CSI has 3 decades of experience in getting the job done. This is your workforce solutions reimagined. Visit CSICompanies.com.
Attention Northeast Florida businesses. The Jaguars and Corporate Traveler are teaming up to bring you the Rising Business Spotlight Program. Get your business in front of 65,000 passionate fans at each Jaguars home game. It's your chance to shine with prime in-stadium exposure, an interactive activation space, and a powerful social media spotlight. Be one of the 6 selected small to medium-sized businesses to be showcased this season. Connect with new audiences like never before. Visit corporatetraveler.us/Jaguars. Don't miss out on this game-changing opportunity with the Jacksonville Jaguars and Corporate Traveler.
And we're back for the final segment of the first hour, the Publix Tailgate Show. Brian and Mike with you from the Hyundai Studios inside the Miller Electric Center. And the Browns and Jaguars just over 2 hours away from EverBank Stadium debuting in 2024. Kickoff at 1 o'clock. Time now for the first rounds on us. All right, the first round's on us, presented by Ancient City Brewing. Taste history, make history. And Jeff and Tony are with us from the broadcast booth. Hello, guys. How are you today?
Morning. Outstanding. How are you doing?
Listen, I love this weather. I mean, this feels a little bit like fall in September in Jacksonville. Man, I'll take it.
Man, give me a little sunshine, Brian. You know, after all the rain we've had, just give me a little sunshine. But I'll take no rain and overcast until about 4:30. Okay.
Okay. Then the sun comes back for you.
You can do whatever you want after 4:30. Just keep this game clean. Keep everybody nice and dry. Let the Jags fans have a good time, and the team to have a good game with no turnovers, with bad conditions.
All right,
you know what I mean?
There's the whole segment, folks. Thanks for joining us. Dempsey, by the way, was taking notes on that, Jeff, so we'll see if we can deliver it for you. Time for Finding Solutions, presented by the University of Florida, the #1 university in the U.S. News and World Report's #1 state for education. I don't even have to ask you. You guys know exactly where this one is headed. What do you do with number 95 in orange?
Well, you better account for him on every snap. You have to know where he is, because he is, in my opinion, the best defensive end in football. I'm not saying he's the best pass rusher. He's up there. But he's the best combination of pass rusher, play against the run, disrupt, the ability to disrupt every play he's on the field. So you have to account for him, and especially the way we played last week against inferior pass rushers who got pressure from the edges. We're going to have to really step up our games at both tackles, and you're going to have to chip him, send tight ends that way, and keep him at bay, because he can wreck the whole game.
You know how good he is? When Gabe Davis starts talking about, I've got to get to my spot in a hurry. You know, I mean, when the wide receivers start talking about they've got to do X, Y, and Z because number 95 is on the defense, you know the guy's pretty good.
All right, guys, last week we saw the Jags run it more than they threw it against Miami. There's a lot of talk about the way that all played out in the second half. But what do you think the game plan is today if they're able to be successful?
And, Mike, if you go back and look at it, it actually was 50-50 because the runs looked like there was more because of the sacks and the scrambles by Trevor Lawrence. But to your point, it was, very, very balanced, heavy run late, and I think that's where the criticism came. At the end of the day, you better run the ball against this Browns team, because I don't think, just because what we just said about Myles Garrett, and they got a bunch of good guys, I don't think you can just line up and drop back and pass it. And so this team's at its best where it's running the ball and then play action pass. If you look at the shots, the throws down the field, it's all off play action pass. And so to do that effectively, you got to run the ball and then take those shots down the field. Now, I think you need to be more aggressive than you were last week as far as that run-pass ratio, but a lot of times the game's going to dictate that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they call that game. And to me, look, Tony's dead on. You got to run the ball when you've got a defense that can put pressure on the quarterback like that. But at the same token, I mean, is this Trevor Bank, right? I mean, today it's Trevor Bank. And here's the interesting thing, guys. If I'm a Cleveland Brown defender rolling up here in the stadium in Jacksonville today, and I'm seeing that they're rebranding the stadium to call it Trevor Bank, I'm stirring the pot.
Yes.
I mean, I'm stirring the pot. I'm going to every one of my guys on my defense, and I'm going, they're going to call this place Trevor Bank? I mean, are they going to do that to us? I mean, we're going to let this place be Trevor Bank today? I mean, this is to me, it would have been a motivation, stir the pot kind of moment. I mean, I don't want to say it's kind of all the way to the Woody Page thing going back to the Denver playoff game in '96, Tony, but it's fuel.
Well, listen, Jeff, you know as well as I do, as players, we look for anything to put a little extra chip on the shoulder, a little extra motivation, a little smack talk out on the field. I mean, anything. And naming the stadium after your starting quarterback is definitely fuel for the fire.
I hope he has a great game. I hope this place is Trevor Bank today.
I think we all do. Guys,
Absolutely.
when they do run it, we saw last week Tank Bigsby got as many carries as Travis Etienne, did very well with them, but Etienne ended up playing about 2 times as many snaps as Bigsby. What do you expect the split to look like today?
Well, it depends on how Tank Bigsby does in pass protection. There was one play in the game last week in Miami to where he left Anton Harrison out to dry. And if you don't get better in pass protection, your snaps are going to be severely limited in this game this week. Now, look, I think we all agree that there's talent there with Tank Bigsby. But the foundation and the beginnings of getting playing time at running back begin with protection, and Tank Bigsby needs to be better this week. And if he does, then it'll be probably a 50-50 split.
Yeah, I don't disagree with what Jeff's saying there, but if you look at who was the better pure running back running the ball last week, it was Tank Bigsby. And, Mike, I think you got to go with the hot hand. All things equal, Jeff's right. If you can't protect, you can't do your assignments right in protection, you're not going to play. But let's assume that gets cleaned up. Then I think if you're Press Taylor and Doug Peterson, you have to go with the hot hand. And if that's Tank Bigsby, I would have rode him until he was worn out last week because he was running the ball better. Now, if it's Travis Etienne, great. Then put Etienne out there and run him ragged. That's the beauty of having 2 backs that you can trust. And the big key is going to be the pass game. Jeff's exactly right. Can they trust Tank Bigsby in protection? And they still are going to, no matter what, want Etienne out there in passing situations because he's better out of the backfield.
Yeah, one of the big storylines for me for this offense today is that you've got to have your big-time players play as big as they're expected to. Last week I had a conversation with offensive coordinator Press Taylor before the game, and I was asking him about, hey, look, I can't wait to see Brian Thomas Jr. get deep. And he's like, look, he goes, it's going to be great, and that's a part of our offense, but this offense runs through Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram. Well, they didn't do very good last week, and if this team and this offense is going to be where they need to be today, especially with a pass rush that's going to force you to get the ball out quickly, the 2 quick type of wide receivers, the ball that can come out quick, are going to go to Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk. And those 2 guys need to play at a higher level today for this offense to be where it needs to be.
Defensively, when you look at this Cleveland team from the Jacksonville perspective, they gave up the most sacks in the league last week. They were without both of their starting tackles. They might have Jack Conklin back today, but should this be a big week for Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker and company?
Well, I think it can be. Should it be? I mean, we'll see. But, yes, with 2 backup tackles, Mike, I would say yes. Trayvon Walker, Josh Hines-Allen need to do better. I will tell you the Cleveland Browns are really good on the inside. You got 2 Pro Bowl type of guards, and so you better make some hay on the outside.
Yeah, Mike, I think Jeff's right, and your question's right. But watching the game live after the Dolphins last week, I thought that offensive line just got murdered by the Cowboys. And then watching the All-22, boy, I came away with a different perspective. I think most of those sacks were on Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson started looking at the rush and actually ran into sacks. Those 2 tackles were not horrible at all. I'm not saying they played great, but it wasn't like, oh, my gosh, like they can't even hold up for a second. A lot of those sacks, a lot of that pressure were because of Deshaun Watson not being comfortable in the pocket and immediately looking at the rush and starting running around when he didn't need to.
Yeah, and on top of that, they were going up against arguably one of the players that goes into the stratosphere up there with Myles Garrett.
That's right.
And Michael Parsons, and our Josh and Trayvon at the level of Michael Parsons, not in my opinion, because that's a very special category to be in. But, yes, the Jaguars, though, got to take advantage of that and keep Deshaun Watson's eyes doing exactly what Tony described.
Yeah, and to do that, they got to get pressure early. Don't let Deshaun Watson get comfortable.
All right,
because
fellas.
He was so uncomfortable, and if you can continue that, then he'll look at the rush and it'll be over.
Enjoy your opening day at home.
We will.
Thank you, boys.
And the sunshine
do.
dialed up for 4:32, according to Dempsey, Jeff. So just enjoy that part of it.
That would be good.
All right, done. If you like it, we take care of it. Hey, the second hour of the Publix Tailgate Show is next. Speaking of like it, JP Shadrick comes in here to take care of the show. The top stories of the day coming up, the Jags and Dolphins at 1 o'clock. Jags and Dolphins, Jags and Browns. Sorry. 1 o'clock Eastern time. Mike, thanks for having me in.
Hey, Brian, always good to see you, buddy.
See
Let's
you in
get
the
a
postgame
W.
show. You betcha. Hopefully we're talking about it today. JP is next. You're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Want to be up close and personal with the Jaguars as they take the field? Here's your chance to be in the shadows, outside the Jaguars locker room, now called the Vault. Enter today at everbank.com/shadows. One winner and a guest for every home game at EverBank Stadium. No purchase necessary to enter or win. Open to legal residents in 50 United States and D.C. 18 and older. Entry periods for the Shadow Sweepstakes promotion from 8/19/24 to 12/15/24. For official rules and complete details, visit everbank.com/shadows. Sponsored administrator, EverBank NA, member FDIC.
Frank Frangie here. When you want barbecue in Jacksonville, you want Bono's Pit Barbecue. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at EverBank Stadium because Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over 70 years of authentic Southern Pit Barbecue. We are the local barbecue joint in BBQval for generations of people in Jacksonville. Go to bonosbarbecue.com to learn more or call 904-880-8310 today. And remember, if you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
We need to define a great deal in today's new home market because the so-called great deals that you find on every corner just aren't the same as the incredible opportunities you'll find with a new Dreamfinder's home. How about 2.99% in year one in one of Dreamfinder's 15 communities across North Florida? Now that's a great deal. 2.99% interest rate in year one and a beautiful new Dreamfinder's home. Visit dfhsalesevent.com for our largest savings of the year on move-in ready homes. That's dfhsalesevent.com.
Touchdown at Jaguars away games when you fly nonstop from Jacksonville International Airport. Join the Jaguars in Miami and Houston. Watch them win in Philly, Detroit, Nashville, and Las Vegas. All the other Jaguars games are just one short connection away. And if airport parking has you stressed, be sure to visit the Jax Airport website before traveling to the terminal. On it, you'll find information about the status of on-airport parking in real time. See if your favorite areas are available or if you need to call an audible. Visit flyjax.com for more information.
It's storm season, and JEA is committed to keeping you informed. In the event of a storm, we'll text and email you about the status of your services. We use Facebook and Twitter to post real-time updates. Our live outage map on JEA.com lets you track restoration progress. And as crews work to restore services, our storm outreach team will be in local neighborhoods to answer your questions. Because as your community utility, JEA is here to keep you safe and connected. Your community, your utility.
The Publix Tailgate Show continues right now.
And it's hour 2 of the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. It is NFL Week 2, and we're closing in on the Browns and Jaguars kickoff just after 1 o'clock at EverBank Stadium, today known as Trevor Bank Stadium. And today's game is brought to you by Trevor Bank, a bank that works so hard that you'll think it works just for you. Get in the game at trevorbank.com. JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey. We're at the Hyundai Studios of the Miller Electric Center across the street from the bank. Fans starting to file into the stadium ahead of this Browns-Jaguars matchup. Jags trying to get back off the mat after the gut punch loss from a week ago.
Yeah, all you can do is put it behind you, JP. I don't know how the players do it because I guarantee you the fans did not get over it quickly this week. I don't think a lot of members of the media were done talking about it until late in the week either. So, look, they're 0-1. There's nothing you can do about that now. You still got 16 games out there, but today it's so important to get to 1-1 with what you've got coming up on the road.
Game day weather is brought to you by the St. Johns River Water Management District. Florida's water, it's worth saving. Currently 80 degrees, a high of 83 today, and cloudy a lot of the day. There is a small chance of rain a little bit later tonight, 20%, but it's been raining for about 2 weeks straight around here. So far, so good this morning. Let's hope it stays the rest of the day today. Let's get to some of today's top stories, starting with priority number 1 this week, blocking number 95 for the Browns. It's defensive end Myles Garrett, head coach Doug Peterson this week.
You got to spend the resources to slow him down. Hey, give him a lot of respect, and that's what teams do, right? I mean, that's what you see it on film all the time, and it's the respect of who the player is, you know. He can certainly wreck a game.
Yeah, and last week, 5 quarterback pressures, a sack, and a forced fumble in the losing effort against the Cowboys, a guy that has put together double-digit sacks in like the last 6 years consecutively. Only 6 other guys in the league have done that.
Look, like other great pass rushers, there are weeks where he doesn't do a whole lot, but then there are weeks when he has 3 sacks and wrecks a game. He 2 or 3 times a year. Myles Garrett plays like the defensive player of the week. You got to make sure this is not one of those weeks.
Well, quarterback Trevor Lawrence hooking up with Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr. last week for a number of catches. Their first games out with the Jaguars a week ago. And the quarterback feels that chemistry with his new wide receivers early, and it's promising.
Played a lot of football with Christian, Evan, Travis. Parker came along strong last year at the end of the year. But you look at Gabe and Brian, those are the 2 new guys that weren't here. So that's something you want to see is just that chemistry and all that. It was great in week 1, and we got to continue to build off of it. It doesn't surprise me at all just because put a lot of work in. I've seen them in practice, and those guys are just gamers, both of them, honestly. They'll go out and make the plays.
Obviously, the idea behind this offense is it could be a different guy each week. Well, we know who it wasn't last week. Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram were limited at best in production last week.
Well, and Evan Ingram killed the Cleveland Browns last year. The Jags put up 27, and Evan Ingram scored a couple of touchdowns in that game. If Trevor Lawrence hadn't turned it over with 3 interceptions, maybe the Jags win that game. We're talking about back-to-back AFC South championships, but he did look good. Trevor did, throwing to Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr. last week. Those guys fit in right away. I just like to see more of it for 60 minutes.
Running back Travis Etienne Jr., of course, had the costly fumble last week at the 2-yard line in Miami. Jags could have been up 3 scores near the end of the third quarter. It took him an extra day to get past it this week.
This one took 48. This one hit me deep down in the core, just because, we work hard all season, all training camp. Nobody sees that. Nobody sees the grind that we put in day and day out, man. We here each and every day just grinding our butts off. And for us to come out there and play that well and just kind of lose the game is unfortunate. But in the NFL, you have to continue to move. You have to go forward. And I had to learn from that mistake, move forward just so I don't let the same mistake bite me twice,
Good approach from Travis Etienne in the locker room this week. A couple of years ago, he had a bunch of fumbles. Last year, he did not lose a fumble at all. Let's hope this is not a trend. I feel like it was just such a solid punch and a great play by the defender when he was about to wrap it up with 2 arms. Either way, it happened, and it turned the game.
That's the modern NFL, though. You got to be aware that guys are trying to do that. They don't try to tackle you inside the 5 anymore. They're trying to get the ball out because it can turn the course of the game like it did last week. It was a great play by Javon Holland. It doesn't change the fact that Travis Etienne can't let that happen, but he is such a dynamic presence on that field and a potential big play every time he touches the ball. You can't go away from Travis Etienne.
Let's flip it around now to the Jaguars defense, and linebacker Foye Oluokun knows that the Cleveland Browns are better than last week's result against the Dallas Cowboys. They can play.
That's not who they are. I know they're a very physical team. Got to get them off track. A very good run game. The pass game can be explosive, all the tools and weapons they have. So what stands out is, the talent they have behind the ball. We got to be able to match it, be able to play more physical than them. To expect that physicality from the Browns, who the Browns are, their identity. So we have to be able to have our own identity, being physical and playing fast.
Even without Chubb, the running back, they've got some tackles that have been out of the lineup at least early in the season. We'll see what happens with that today. They've got a couple of receivers who've been around the league for a minute, obviously. So and, of course, a quarterback who has played a lot of football and trying to find his footing with a lot happening outside of the game for him. This is a Browns team that does have some parts and pieces to it.
And the big one to watch today is Amari Cooper with Tyson Campbell out because they don't have David Njoku to go to. As much as Evan Ingram hurt the Cleveland Browns last year, Njoku killed the Jags, scored those first early couple of touchdowns, and really set the tenor for that game. So he is out today. If they're able to protect Deshaun Watson, you're going to see a lot of targets for Amari Cooper.
And Monteric Brown, most likely the guy covering him today, starting again against Cleveland as he did a season ago.
I can go back and watch film and see what they did, but, it's just crazy. I started last year versus them, and I get another opportunity this week. It means a lot, just preparing for them. It starts with practice, so just making sure I work hard in practice and do what I got to do, and it translates to the game.
It's amazing. It's already Monteric Brown's third year in the National Football League, but had some significant time towards the end of last season on the field, and that gives him a little more confidence going into this week.
Yeah, he's been out there. Look, he's got potentially a really good pass rush in front of him, which certainly helps. And, again, we don't know about Jack Conklin's status. I'm guessing he's going to play today, but that offensive line is not 100%, and the Jags can bring the pass rush.
And it is the home opener today for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jags defensive end Josh Hines-Allen in the locker room this week. He needs a few things from the home fans today.
We need a couple penalties. We need a couple of them to, we need a loud crowd. I need to hear all of that. I need to hear everything. I want at least about 4 false starts from them, a couple delay of games. That's something that, that's another version of us. You talking about, they have, Texas A&M has the 12th man, and you have Seattle that has the 12th man. This is essentially our 12th man, and we can have that factor involved in our game. It gives us juice. We can have that presence out there, man. That'll be huge for us.
Certainly helps the pass rush when the offensive linemen have some issues getting off the ball, and hey, need a big game from JHA and Walker today.
Yeah, but like Trevor Lawrence said this week, we'll get that crowd reaction when we play well. So, give them something to go crazy about, and the Jag fans will respond.
There you have it, some of today's top stories. Jags fans can't make the game? Well, we get it. You can easily donate your Jags tickets to Vet Tix military veterans in the community through the Jaguars ticketing account page. Select more on the ticket page and select the game you'd like to donate. It's that easy. Vet Tix, tickets for troops. Let's head to the broadcast booth at EverBank Stadium today. Kai Stevens standing by ahead of this matchup for the Browns and the Jaguars. Good morning, Kai, first of all.
Gentlemen, I'm coming to you from EverBank as the flying billboard goes by, being pulled behind a plane as well. EverBank everywhere.
All over the place today. Let's hope Trevor steps up and has a big game today. That would make a lot of sense for this team. But he's got some guys on this roster to throw to. Obviously, Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk are guys they feel like it kind of goes through. But the new additions stood up last week and had a big game, Kai.
Absolutely. I think we were all excited. We saw flashes from Brian Thomas Jr. in training camp, what he was able to do, getting that, pretty much involved in both touchdowns that we saw in the first half, obviously getting that PI call against Jalen Ramsey. And also what he's brought to the locker room. Evan Ingram talked a little bit earlier this week about what BTJ's presence has brought to them.
It's a huge spark for our team, a huge spark. And I told him, today, actually, you may be a rookie, you might be quiet, but that energy you had on Sunday, the confidence that we saw come out of you, that's going to help our team. We see it and we feel it. So whatever he's been doing, he needs to keep doing it. And he has a bright future ahead. It's only his first game. He's going to continue to learn. He's going to continue to get better and get more accustomed to the game and our offense. So, I can't wait to play alongside him for the rest of the season and just watch him grow.
That's Evan Ingram, of course, Kai, a guy who's played a lot of football at a high level, certainly around here in Jacksonville. And Brian Thomas, the touchdown route was fascinating because he had to weave through certain parts of the defense. He turns around, the ball's already in the air, and he hits the spot on the back line of the end zone. And that was something I think the route running ability of Thomas was okay, we'll work on that when we can. He's tall and fast and smart. Let's start there. He's got more than just that now.
Absolutely. He can threaten you in several different ways, and I think what's impressive about that also is Trevor trusting him that quickly, right? This is a rookie. He doesn't know what he's going to do in an NFL game yet because he hasn't seen it, but he's throwing that ball assuming Brian Thomas is going to be in that spot when he gets there, and he was. And I think that's great because we've talked before about
Trevor maybe not building trust with new receivers as well. We saw maybe some issues with Calvin Ridley last year, but he already has that trust in Brian Thomas Jr. Obviously coming through and getting a touchdown certainly helps build it up even more. So it's exciting that they have that down so early.
And they, just hearing Evan Ingram talk about a rookie player like that, they know he's a kind of a quiet personality, but you saw flashes of that when he was chirping to Jalen after the pass interference call. I don't think anybody around here had seen that out of him at any point. So I think that opened a lot of eyes that, okay, there is a little spark inside of this guy.
Yeah, I think he's quiet, but if you start talking, he'll answer. He will finish the conversation, I think we've seen. And if you get him going a little bit, Gabe Davis has pretty much put that as his role of getting more out of Brian Thomas Jr. talking a little bit more. But I don't care if he talks or he doesn't talk. If he plays like that, he can do whatever he wants.
You mentioned another one of the new additions, obviously, in Gabe Davis, who put together a solid game last week and has played a lot of football on winning organizations, on a winning team, of course, in Buffalo. So what he brings to this equation, I think that was exciting to see at least 1 week of that a week ago in Miami.
Yeah, I think the two newer guys probably had a better day than maybe Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk, which is off for them, not what we're used to seeing. So I don't imagine that will continue into this week. Evan Ingram probably got game planned for. They tried to take him out specifically, and Christian Kirk had, probably just a very off performance from what we're used to seeing from him. So if both of them get back to form and then the new guys keep doing what they're doing, it's going to be good.
Okay, and block 95 today. That's priority number one.
Try. Slow him down. How about that?
Slow him down.
Just slow him down and throw it quickly.
Get it out fast. Who did you speak to coming into the stadium today, Kai?
I caught up with Christian Kirk, and like I said, he was impressed with what I think I was impressed as well. Is last year a lot of it felt like they didn't know why they were losing, and like week to week it just didn't. The vibe was a little bit off. It was frustration, but it wasn't like, okay, we're gonna fix it. After the loss last week, it felt like frustration because we should have won. It wasn't like, oh, I don't know what's going on. So I think the way they approached things this week, everybody was happy with. I think Doug was pleased with what he saw from the team this week. So this is a perfect opportunity for them to bounce back and show what they're going to be about this year.
We're a little less than 2 hours from finding out the Browns and the Jaguars coming up. Kai Stevens from EverBank Stadium today. Have a good one, Kai. We'll talk to you.
Thanks, guys.
I'll give Kainani Stevens a follow at Kainani Stevens on X. Jaguars reporter joining us from the bank. Plenty ahead. We're back in a moment with a look around the National Football League. And Andrew Siciliano is the new voice of the Cleveland Browns. The football fans know Andrew. If you had DirecTV Red Zone for the last, 15 years at least, long time, from day one of that product to last season. Siciliano also NFL Network before, now with the Cleveland Browns. He'll join us to take a look at the opposition for today's game. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff time for the Browns and the Jaguars, and this is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
How do you get him to a healthy future? Start with Nemours Children's Health. Our dedicated pediatricians and pediatric specialists provide all the care and support that you and your child need when it's needed most. Because keeping him well today will help ensure his very best tomorrow, so he can grow up to be whoever he wants to be. Nemours Children's Health. Well, beyond medicine.
Want to be up close and personal with the Jaguars as they take the field? Here's your chance to be in the shadows, outside the Jaguars locker room, now called the Vault. Enter today at everbank.com/shadows. One winner and a guest for every home game at EverBank Stadium. No purchase necessary to enter or win. Open to legal residents of the United States and DC 18 and older. Entry periods for the Shadow Sweepstakes promotion from 8/19/24 to 12/15/24. For official rules and complete details, visit everbank.com/shadows. Sponsored administrator, EverBank NA, member FDIC.
The kick is up. It's good!
Score winning sub deals this Jaguar season at Firehouse Subs. Receive 50% off on any sub when the Jaguars kick a field goal of 40 yards or more. It's a bold deal for the bold city. Download the Firehouse Subs app for offer details. Redeemable only at participating Jacksonville and Orlando area restaurants. Only available in the Firehouse Subs app. Tackle your marketing needs with Kessler Creative. Providing direct mail services for more than a decade, Kessler has a wide range of services from small mailers to large banners and signs. Draft Kessler as your first pick to receive the best targeted mail list. Elevate your business and be on the winning team with Kessler Creative. Kessler Creative, results-driven marketing and proud partner of your Jacksonville Jaguars. Mr. Chubby's Wings is a whole lot more than just wings. Craving the ultimate game day experience? Look no further. Swing by Mr. Chubby's and indulge in the biggest and best wings in town, all while soaking up the lively atmosphere with fellow sports fans. With plenty of game day specials and locations on the West Side, Fleming Island, Ponte Vedra Beach, and new this season, EverBank Stadium, they're here for all your game day needs. Mr. Chubby's Wings is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mr. Chubby's Wings, before the game, after the game, and during the game.
JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios at the Miller Electric Center. The Publix Tailgate Show continues. It's week 2. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff time for the Browns and the Jaguars at EverBank Stadium. Coming up in Countdown to Kickoff at noon on the Jaguars Radio Network, Jags owner Shad Khan will join me live in studio at about 12:08, so about 50 minutes or so from right now. Mike, let's take a look around the National Football League.
All right, JP, no timetable given yet for a return to the field for Miami quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, nor is there even certainty as to whether or not he will return to the field at all after suffering at least his third known concussion when the Dolphins fell to the Bills on Thursday Night Football. A report came out this morning that said Tagovailoa is not planning on retiring right now, but then again, he's scheduled to meet with neurologists early this week as he focuses on a return to full health. Miami reportedly will look to add another quarterback to the roster, but are said to be planning to roll with backup Skylar Thompson in the interim. The Dolphins travel to Seattle next week to take on the Seahawks. Defending NFC champion San Francisco will be without their star running back for at least the next 4 games. Christian McCaffrey placed on injured reserve yesterday while he deals with Achilles tendonitis. Ian Rappaport of NFL Media came out this morning and said it's maybe 6 weeks or longer for McCaffrey, his absence. He'll be eligible, though, to return for Thursday Night Football on October 10th at Seattle at the earliest. Despite Dallas getting long-term contract extensions done with quarterback Dak Prescott and wide receiver CeeDee Lamb in the past few weeks, star pass rusher Micah Parsons reportedly content to wait until next offseason to get his own extension done with the Cowboys. Parsons banking on a huge year under defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer to set him up for the largest non-quarterback contract in league history. Speaking of guys who'd like to get a contract, Jamar Chase is one of those. According to ESPN's Adam Schefter, Chase, the wide receiver of the Cincinnati Bengals, has no plans to negotiate a long-term deal this season with the club. Talks between Chase and the Bengals are off for now, probably for the rest of the season unless the team does something to change the dynamic. Chase reportedly believes the Bengals misled him when they told him at the end of last year and again during the offseason that he'd get an extension that ultimately did not happen. Of course, they did try. They just didn't meet Chase's asking price. To reinforce his word and strengthen his position, Jamar Chase has also taken out a $50 million insurance policy on himself for the season to safeguard against injury and any potential lost earnings. And finally, the Kansas City Chiefs were fined $100,000 for a sideline altercation that involved tight end Peyton Hendershot and the Baltimore Ravens during the team's season opener on September 5th. Hendershot, who was inactive for the game, was standing on the Chiefs sideline, and he shoved Ravens linebacker Roquan Smith after Smith had chased Patrick Mahomes out of bounds. Mahomes might pick that one up for him. I have a feeling. I don't know if that's allowed, but you know.
Yeah. I remember seeing that when it happened. I'm like, wait, who is that
What are you
guy?
doing, right? You're not involved in this. Stay out of this.
Who was the Eagles security guy?
Eagles sideline guy, yes. You're not a player. Stand down.
Well, he is a player, but he's just an inactive
Well, he's a player. I'm talking about the Eagles sideline guy.
That was,
yes.
yeah.
You're not an active player. Don't get involved in the fray.
Is he back on the sideline this year?
I
He
think
got kicked
is.
off the rest of the year, didn't he?
He did, but I think he is.
Don't don't go into the fray.
I don't remember his name. He's very popular in Philadelphia. So
Dom something
like that.
Like that.
Yeah. I could imagine if some big galoot on the Jags sideline manhandled one of the opposing team.
A big
members.
galoot?
Yeah,
Really?
you can be a big galoot to take
To be a
that
security
shot. He's
guy,
pretty
kinda-
much a big galoot. You've seen the guy, right?
I've seen him.
Yes.
You don't want to mess with that guy.
I would not mess
He's
with
got
a big
some
galoot.
people in
If I
certain
could help
places that can handle things for
He
him.
knows some guys.
There's your look around the National Football League. The longtime radio voice of the Browns, Jim Donovan, is again battling cancer, and our thoughts are with him and his family. He has stepped down from his role just before the season. But in steps longtime NFL Network and NFL Red Zone host and Cleveland area native Andrew Siciliano to take over as the voice of the Browns. There's plenty of noise around quarterback Deshaun Watson, but he explains how the Browns are handling it on the field this season. And there's a lot to handle, Mike, because on and off the field's one thing. On the field, too, they've got to figure some things out.
Well, absolutely. I mean, they've got they've got issues with Deshaun Watson off the field. They've got issues with him on the field. Got a lot of injuries that they're dealing with right now as well.
We'll hear from Siciliano on how they're handling it on the field, at least on offense.
I think Myles, you're right, is destined to make the short drive down to Canton. Actually, I don't know if this has changed, but a couple of years ago, Myles told me that he won't go to Canton until he's in, and that wasn't an arrogant thing. It was more like much like in hockey. I don't want to touch the Stanley Cup until I win the Stanley Cup kind of thing, because Stefanski had in the preseason, I think before the Hall of Fame game, had organized kind of a field trip, a tour of the building, and he said, nope, I don't want to go. And Stefanski honored his request. Now, Micah is younger, right? So Micah is in year 3. So I think just from a contractual standpoint, he's still on a rookie deal. You would probably take Micah, but there is no wrong answer because Myles Garrett is inevitable.
Andrew Siciliano with us, the voice of the Cleveland Browns. Deshaun Watson, I mean, there's a lot going on around Deshaun.
Yeah.
It's been a lot going on around Deshaun since he showed up in Cleveland, but he's on the field now. It didn't look great last week for him, obviously. Is the old Deshaun still in there? And how, as a player, do you find your way back to what got you to this point?
It's a great question. And JP, I actually had a nearly identical question for Kevin Stefanski Sunday morning on our pregame show in Cleveland. I went back to week 10 last year, which was the last healthy performance. Although he really wasn't healthy, we find out he had a broken bone behind his scapula and he had a high ankle sprain in that game. But week 10 last year, he was 14 of 14 in the second half on the road at Baltimore, and they beat, at that point, what was a juggernaut of a Ravens team on the road. He played a perfect half, rallied him back. The old Deshaun scrambles, and he was great. I said, that Deshaun that you saw week 10, have you seen that Deshaun this summer? And he was adamant. Yes, absolutely. We did not see that Deshaun week 1 against the Cowboys. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If you go back and watch the first 2 possessions against the Cowboys, quick drops, getting the ball out. He had a drop or 2. He had a ball off of Amari Cooper's chest in which Kalen Carson, the rookie 5th-round pick out of Wake, blatantly pass interfered. Blatantly should have been called for interference, and the refs gave the rookie the call there over the veteran. I'm not saying that if they get the flag there, all of a sudden we see a better Deshaun at all. I'm saying there were glimpses, but the bad far outweighed the good. You have the very interesting dynamic here of Kevin Stefanski kind of tearing the offense down to the studs in the offseason to bring in Ken Dorsey. And they went a lot more 5 wide. They went a lot more empty. Can you establish a run game that way? It is very much a work in progress. And I know the people in Cleveland are banging the table for, well, this is evidence that you needed to play everybody in the preseason. I would push back strongly against that. Having worked with the Rams and Sean McVay for all these years, he plays nobody. They're fine week 1. I think it's far more an issue of everybody was injured during training camp, and that lack of cohesion from those injuries, I think, was evident week 1.
Andrew Siciliano, voice of the Browns, tough division, AFC North. Is this a Browns team that can compete? Is this a team that's ready for the big time?
Going into last week, everyone said yes, without a doubt. not only ready to compete, but ready to compete for New Orleans. Obviously, week one, that was a punch in the mouth, and that goes without saying nor amplifying, and nothing I could say, makes it worse. Week one to week two, every coach will tell you, I think Doug said it this week, right? You see the biggest jump week one to week two. They need a big jump. Week two, to me, is the truth serum. Week one is a liar, so we'll find out Sunday.
Great stuff as always, man. Nice to visit with you. Congrats on the gig, and good luck with the earthquakes. I mean, you were in LA, and the day we taped this, you were shaking like 20 minutes before. So I'm glad you're okay.
It was a 5.1, JP. We haven't had a 5.1 in a little bit. It wasn't the strength of the earthquake, not to bore people in Jacksonville. You guys get tropical storms, I know. It was the duration. It lasted about a good 10 seconds. It was one where you go, oh, that's an earthquake. Oh, wow, that isn't stopping. So that's why this one was a bit different. But everyone's good here. Life goes on.
Andrew Siciliano of the Cleveland Browns, the voice of the Browns, joining us. The full conversation on the official Jaguars podcast network and Jaguars YouTube, and plenty ahead. Inactives around the corner. And a pregame huddle-up podcast with Bucky Brooks and John Oehser standing by at EverBank Stadium. We're closing in on week two, the Browns and the Jaguars at 1 o'clock. This is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips. Delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages. And you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Attention Northeast Florida businesses. The Jaguars and Corporate Traveler are teaming up to bring you the Rising Business Spotlight Program. Get your business in front of 65,000 passionate fans at each Jaguars home game. It's your chance to shine with prime in-stadium exposure, an interactive activation space, and a powerful social media spotlight. Be one of the 6 selected small to medium-sized businesses to be showcased this season. Connect with new audiences like never before. Visit corporatetraveler.us/Jaguars. Don't miss out on this game-changing opportunity with the Jacksonville Jaguars and Corporate Traveler.
Daly's Dash is not only your Jaguars game day stop, but a great place to grab a meal any day of the week. To honor the Jags and the fans, we've crafted the Duval Sub. The Duval comes with freshly sliced turkey, ham, melted cheddar, and habanero jack cheese, topped with crisp lettuce, fresh tomatoes, and a double portion of our secret sauce, all served on a fresh roll. Come by your local's Daly's Dash today to get your delicious Duval Sub. Daly's is the official convenience store sponsor of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
How do you get him to a healthy future? Start with Nemours Children's Health. Our dedicated pediatricians and pediatric specialists provide all the care and support that you and your child need when it's needed most. Because keeping him well today will help ensure his very best tomorrow, so he can grow up to be whoever he wants to be. Nemours Children's Health. Well, beyond medicine.
Chelsea here. Tired of those drafty windows and high energy bills? It's time to upgrade with Renewal by Andersen. Right now, during our exclusive sale, you can save big on custom-built, energy-efficient windows and doors designed to keep your home comfortable and secure all year round. Our Fibrex material is 2 times stronger than vinyl, providing superior durability and impact resistance. Plus, with flexible financing options available, there's never been a better time to make a switch. Visit bestwindowsflorida.com to schedule your free consultation today. Proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Restrictions apply. License number CGC 1527613.
It's not about how you start the job. It's about finishing what you start. The Ford F-150 truck can help. Get the freedom to choose between available gas, Power Boost Hybrid, or all-electric powertrains, all delivering the power, capability, and efficiency needed to get the job done right. Just another reason why Ford F-Series is the best-selling truck in America 47 straight years. Ford F-150, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
JP Shadrick and Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios of the Miller Electric Center. The Publix Tailgate Show continues. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. The Browns and the Jaguars meet in week 2. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff time. EverBank Stadium in Jacksonville, the site. Today, it's called Trevor Bank Stadium, a bank that works so hard that you'll think it works just for you. Get in the game at trevorbank.com. Inactives coming in. What do the Browns have to offer today?
Well, they don't have either of the starting tackles to offer, and a lot of folks are going to be surprised because up in Cleveland, they were surprised when Jack Conklin was unable to play last week. He is the right tackle along with left tackle Jedrick Wills, both of them officially inactive today, so crank up the pass rush, Jaguars. Also, we knew this. David Njoku's been ruled out with an injury already. He killed the Jags last year with a couple of touchdowns, so that's another starter down on offense. Quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson will be the emergency third quarterback today. Khalif Halassi, a cornerback, is not up. Javian Cohen, a guard, is inactive today, along with wide receiver Jamari Thrash. And this week, Juan Thornhill, the starting free safety of the Cleveland Browns, went on injured reserve. So there's another starter down. The Browns pretty beat up right now, JP.
Okay, and a slight delay in the Jaguars inactives. We will get them to you when they come through officially. We will pass those along to you. So stand by. We will get those. Let's go back to Trevor Bank Stadium. And Bucky Brooks and John Oehser joining us in the broadcast booth for a pregame huddle-up conversation. Good morning still, I suppose. How are we?
We're good. We're here at the Trevor Bank and waiting for the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bucky made it.
He's here.
Whoa. How have you know? Someone came running through the doors to make sure they were there, and it wasn't me.
Oh, no, you were early then. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Well,
Yeah.
good. I like that. Thanks for
Game
setting
day
the tone,
ready.
Bucky. We
Game day
appreciate
ready.
that. Number one priority for the Jaguars today. What can they not afford to let happen to them? What do they need to – what's the number one priority today?
Don't be themselves. So the things that we always talk about that are simple that the Jaguars can control. Don't turn it over. No pre-snap or foolish penalties. No big plays allowed. If they take care of those things, that'll give them the chance to win the game against a team that, look, is vulnerable coming in here with the injury situation. They just need to try and put themselves in a position to play a clean football game.
Yeah, I think may not precisely answer your question, JP, but I think they've got to convert third downs. I mean, they were 2 of 10 there last week. And of all the things that Doug was asked about early in the week, that was what he kept going back to was, that was why they only had 50 plays. It was why the offense never felt like it was getting going. It was why Trevor only threw the ball 9 times in the second half. When you're not on the field, you don't get into your offense. You don't do the things you want to do. So I think third down conversions, it's kind of obvious. It was a huge deal for him last year, but it was certainly a huge deal for him Sunday, and they got to convert third down.
No question about it, John. You want to get the other team off the field on third down as well. And we just mentioned, those injury concerns, 2 offensive tackles down for the Cleveland Browns today. So hopefully they'll be able to heat up Deshaun Watson with the pass rush. But when he has time to throw, guys, the Jags are missing 2 starters in the secondary. So how do they deal with Amari Cooper today?
Look, I think it's a lot similar to what they did last week. I think at the end of the day, the Jaguars are going to do what they do. Meaning they're going to line up and play a bunch of man-to-man. They're going to send some zone. But they feel like they can take away the easy throws by playing man coverage while also taking away the deep throws by maintaining the proper leverage. I was surprised last week that they stuck with that game plan against Miami. They had success. After that success that they had last week, for the most part, I think they build on that. I think they come and do the same game plan.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to give him a lot of time to throw to him. So this is a matchup that up front, the Jaguars' defensive front's advantage over the Browns' offensive line should trump any problems they have in the secondary. Not every play, but, over the course of the game, you should be able to pressure this quarterback into mistakes. And it's an offense that isn't quite comfortable yet. They've changed scheme in the offseason. It doesn't feel like they know exactly what they want to do within it yet. It's up to the Jaguars' defensive front to make sure that continues and not make their secondary vulnerable.
Bucky Brooks, John Oehser from Trevor Bank Stadium, the huddle-up conversation before week number 2. All right, it's Trevor Bank Stadium today, so you would think that Trevor needs to play pretty well in this game. He got 12 completions last week, just kind of the way the game went. They didn't have a lot of plays. What does Trevor Lawrence need to do to take that next step today?
We need to see him play at his best. I mean, it is time for him to kind of take his game up a notch. And to me, I think it's a combination of not only Trevor executing the plan, but making sure that the plan is tailored to what Trevor does really well. We have seen this team in the past. They've been at their best when they're running crossing routes and some vertical shots. And so I would expect to see a lot of that in the game plan, also because of the way the Browns play. The Browns want to play man-to-man, and Jim Schwartz wants to bring 5 and bring pressure and try and create disruption. There are going to be some big play opportunities horizontally and vertically. Trevor needs to catch the lottery ticket when it pops up.
Well, I think fairly or unfairly, it comes down to moments. I mean, we talked last week. He played well. He had some big throws. The throw to Brian Thomas Jr. is well documented, a great throw. And then at the end, game on the line, took a sack that he shouldn't have taken, got them out of down and distance positivity, if you will. I didn't say that well, but got them into a bad situation. And then all of a sudden they're off the field and don't get the ball back. So I think he overall, I assume he graded out very, very well. In that moment, not so much. That's still what he needs to get to. Converting third downs would give him more opportunities to get to those, but it's got to be big moments, because that's when the NFL quarterbacks decide games in the big moments. That's still his task to prove he can do that consistently.
Well, Brian Thomas Jr. rose to the occasion in the first half last week, guys. May have been the Jags' best performer in those first 30 minutes, and then they didn't get him a target in the second 30. What can they do today to ensure that they're getting some shots to him all throughout the game?
I think this is an offense that is organic in terms of where the ball goes, and I think this is the way that they want to operate. A couple years ago, 2022, the ball just went to the open man. I think they're back to doing that. So it may be Brian Thomas Jr.'s game. It may be Gabe Davis's game. It might be a game that goes to Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk based on the coverage. You would like to get an occasional shot, but I don't think you go out of your way to make sure that he gets involved. I think you just kind of allow the offense to materialize, and the open man will get it.
Yeah, I'm going to sound like a broken record. Get more plays in the second half, and you get Brian Thomas some more Thomas some more chances. They were running well early in the third quarter last week and sort of convinced themselves they could stick to that. Then all of a sudden, a couple drives they didn't. Then all of a sudden the game was over. So it just sort of ran out of opportunities to get to him. I agree with Bucky. It's going to be an organic offense. If you get more plays, you will get more chances to get the ball to BTJ.
All right, guys, I know the players probably won't think about it like this, or maybe they do but just don't say it, but we can. We can think about it like this. It's a big game. Every game's big, but the next 2 weeks are on the road. One of them is Monday Night Football in Buffalo. One of them is in Houston against the defending division champions. This is not a must-win in week 2. Boy, they need it, right, Bucky?
It's not a must game, but yeah, you would like to have it because you gave away one in week 1. You want to get back on track in week 2 with an opportunity to go above 500 in week 3. This is a big one because this is a team that has some vulnerabilities, but also you're playing at home. The one thing you want to do is establish that you win your home games, because if you do that, it gives you a chance to kind of write your ticket into the postseason.
Yeah, it's not must win, but as I wrote once this week, you must win sometime, and you got to start doing it. So. It's
a good point.
It's pretty close to must win because I don't know that it would be if the end of last year hadn't happened. But you lost 5 of 6. If you lose today, you've lost 7 of 8. You don't want that. You don't want this team to start feeling that's what they are. They don't believe they're last year's team. But right now, last week, they played like last year's team. So you've got to get out of that. So not on paper, and I'll be the first one if they lose. Say, look, it wasn't a must-win. There's 15 more. But, boy, they got to start winning because they believe they're good, and they got to show it.
All right, guys, Myles Garrett 2 or 3 times a year plays like the best defensive player in the league. Usually wins the Player of the Week award once or twice. What do the Jags do to make sure that this is not one of those weeks?
Don't let him get started. He is Waldo. Every time they break the huddle, they need to identify where's Waldo. You got to make sure that he is taken care of because he is the one game record that we know for sure can completely change the fortunes of the game at the front line. So don't allow him to have clean opportunities to knock Trevor Lawrence around. Try and limit him. Try and make sure that you have multiple eyes on him at all times. And if you can stymie him, then you can give your quarterback enough time to attack the secondary. But it's a good defense. They don't play as well on the road as they do at home, but this is a really good defense. You got to make sure you take care of number 95 first and then find a way to attack down the field because you're going to need some splash plays to be able to get this done.
Yeah, it's obvious. How do you top him? You get him blocked. How do you do that? You probably chip him. You probably help. And then even more than that, when you're playing a great defender like this, he's probably going to get a couple of plays where he disrupts. It's what you do on the other plays where you get him blocked. Take advantage of the moment. If you get him blocked and you have play action, complete the pass, make the big play. Don't throw incomplete there and give him another chance. So I've always thought when you're playing a great disruptive defensive player, you've got to make plays on the plays where he doesn't get his and take advantage of that.
All right, Bucky Brooks and John Oehser, listen each Wednesday, 4 o'clock. It's Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks on Jaguars YouTube and Jaguars.com. Enjoy the game, guys. We'll talk to you.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Bucky and John out of here. The Jaguars inactives are in officially now. Darnell Savage was ruled out. He is inactive today with a quadriceps injury suffered in practice on Thursday. Javon Foster, rookie offensive lineman, inactive. Cole Van Lanen, offensive lineman, inactive today. And then 3 defensive linemen out today. Tyler Lacey, defensive tackle. Mason Smith, defensive tackle, and Jordan Jefferson, the defensive tackle. Mason Smith's second-round pick was not on the injury report this week. Inactive today. That's of note.
Yeah, I hate to see that. I mean, you want to develop this guy, and you think he's got the chance to really help you in the short and long term. And, Jeremiah Ledbetter is up, and they're going with the more veteran player today, JP. I'm sure this is going to be a talking point in the postgame to find out what led to this, and it may just be that they feel like Ledbetter's more prepared against this team that wants to run the ball a bunch on you today. I don't know, but I hate to see your second-round pick not active in week 2.
Yeah, and I mean I can't even remember the last time a second-round pick would have been inactive of a healthy scratch at least in a game.
Right.
I'd have to go back.
Not off the top of my head, but.
Doesn't happen every day.
Kind of curious. So we had heard that this might be the case, but disappointing nonetheless.
It is certainly the case today. Those are the inactives for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we're closing in on Jaguars Radio Network coverage. Top of the hour. Countdown to kickoff starts at noon. Up next, a fantasy forecast, and we'll hear from Frank Frangie ahead of the Browns and Jaguars in Week 2. This is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
It's not about how you start the job. It's about finishing what you start. The Ford F-150 truck can help. Get the freedom to choose between available gas, Power Boost Hybrid, or all-electric powertrains, all delivering the power, capability, and efficiency needed to get the job done right. Just another reason why Ford F-Series is the best-selling truck in America 47 straight years. Ford F-150. Proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Unlock your potential at the University of North Florida. A beautiful campus with an inspiring environment for learning, UNF is a key partner to Florida's booming industries, providing students with direct access to internships and jobs. Set a new course at UNF and soar into your future. Visit unf.edu to learn more. Hey Jags fans, Extreme isn't always about heat, it's about flavor. And 505 knows flavor, so wake up those sleepy taste buds with 505's new lineup of premium craft salsa. Powered by the bud-kicking boldness of fire-roasted Hatch Valley chilies, 505 salsas are more than enough to bulk up any simple spread. Ignite your sense of boldness with 505's all-new assortment of fiercely fiery flavors featuring 505's new black bean and corn craft salsa. And of course, 505's award-winning flagship flavor, Southwestern style. Looking for the perfect place to host a business trip, corporate group, or social gathering? Look no further than the award-winning Sheraton Jacksonville Hotel, proudly part of the Marriott family of hotels. Centrally located next to the St. John's Town Center off Gate Parkway in JTB, they offer everything you need, whether you're hosting a meeting or just unwinding with friends at the BC Grill and Patio. Discover comfort and convenience like never before. Search Sheraton Jacksonville or call 904-564-4772 today.
Final moments of the Publix Tailgate Show. JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios ahead of the Browns and the Jaguars. It's a 1:02 official kickoff time at EverBank Stadium. Today's game brought to you by EverBank, a bank that works so hard that you'll think it works just for you. Get in the game at EverBank.com. How about a fantasy forecast, Mike Dempsey?
All right, buckle up. We got a lot of injury updates for you. I'll start with the good news, the guys who were questionable but are suiting up today. That includes Jameson Williams, who had a monster Week 1 for the Detroit Lions. That is a pretty high expected total in that game. Tampa Bay at Detroit. Williamson will be active despite the ankle injury that he has been dealing with this week. In Green Bay, the Packers will host the Colts. The bad news is Jordan Love was doubtful and has been ruled out for this game. Malik Willis starts in place of the injured Love, but he will have Jaden Reed at his disposal this week. Reed was questionable coming into the weekend. The LA Chargers in Carolina to take on the Panthers. Josh Palmer was questionable with a knee injury coming into today, and he is good to go as well. Now, some of the bad news in New England, the Patriots hosting the Seattle Seahawks, and Seattle will be without their running back Kenneth Walker, dealing with an oblique injury. Those are the kind of injuries, particularly for running backs, that can linger for quite a while. He is out today. Zach Charbonnet gets the start, and I would say Charbonnet's kind of a middle-of-the-pack running back 2 option in a 12-team league, and a decent DFS play because the price will be right this week as well. We found out that Hollywood Brown, who got injured in the preseason opener against the Jacksonville Jaguars, now is likely out for the year, certainly out for the regular season. The Kansas City Chiefs are hoping they can get him back, maybe if they are in the postseason, which they likely will be, but that's a long shot at this point. Cincinnati in Kansas City to take on the Chiefs today. San Francisco placed Christian McCaffrey on injured reserve yesterday, and a report this morning from Ian Rappaport of NFL Media indicated he may need to miss 6 weeks or more going forward. At the minimum, he'll miss the next 4. San Fran in Minnesota, fire up Jordan Mason again. He is a running back 1 until further notice is given. The Rams at Arizona, Puka Nacua, their star second-year wide receiver, already on injured reserve after a knee injury suffered in the opener against Detroit last week. Now word coming out that Nacua is going to probably need a little bit more time than the 4-week minimum. Could miss 5 to 7 weeks going forward here for the LA Rams. In Chicago, actually in Houston, is where the Bears will be playing tonight. They hope to have wide receivers Roma Dunze, who's questionable with a knee injury, and Keenan Allen, who's questionable with a heel injury. Dunze said to be closer to playing. Allen a little bit more skeptical about his availability. And Monday Night Football, you always hate when you've got this situation, but at least we know it going in, and we can make plans ahead of time. Looking at you, San Francisco, for the way you left us hanging last week a little bit. But the Philadelphia Eagles' A.J. Brown showed up questionable with a hamstring injury on the late week injury report. Did not practice yesterday. So, look, if you have Brown in your lineup, try to move him into a flex spot to give yourself a lot of different options with who you can fill that spot with, and then make sure you have someone who's going in the Atlanta-Philadelphia game. The ideal pickup would be Jahan Dotson if he's available. Johnny Wilson, the rookie out of Florida State, is also questionable with a hamstring injury, so could be a decent amount of targets for Dotson as like the 3rd or 4th option in the passing game for Philadelphia. Other guys to keep an eye on your waiver wire, Darnell Mooney and Ray McLeod for the Falcons. You can always dip into that Philadelphia backfield with Kenneth Gainwell or maybe Tyler Algier if he's out there on the wire from the Atlanta Falcons.
That's all you got?
That's all I got for right now.
Wow, what a day.
More coming up.
A lot going on. There's the fantasy forecast. And we're closing in on Countdown to Kickoff on the Jaguars Radio Network at noon. And then at 12:08 in that show, Jags owner Shad Khan will join me live in studio. It's about 18 minutes or so from right now. The Jaguars Radio Network, presented by the University of Florida, the #1 university in the U.S. News and World Report's #1 state for education. Frank Frangie joining us from EverBank Stadium, right across the street from right here at the Miller Electric Center. It's week 2, Browns, Jaguars, Frank, and home opener. Got to get this one today for a number of reasons, but you got to get right at home. And we'll try to get back to Frank coming up in just a little bit across the street. Yeah, home opener, Mike, it's obviously the Jags didn't play well in any area down the stretch of last season, but certainly here at the bank, you got to defend the home turf before you can go outside. You win your home games and half your road games, you're in great shape.
Absolutely. Trevor Lawrence has not won a game here in Jacksonville since last November. The last time they did win was with C.J. Beathard going up against the Carolina Panthers, so hopefully they can get that turned around against the Cleveland Browns. And I am more on the must-win side of things. Like, I get it mathematically it's not a must-win, but it's when you face a road trip against Buffalo on Monday Night Football when they just played on Thursday and looked fantastic and finished a complete performance against a team that you failed to do that against, and they've got the extra rest coming up. Then you get Houston, then you get Indianapolis. These are huge games that are facing the Jaguars. Every game's big, but to get this one at home is almost in the have-to-have-it category.
Let's go to EverBank Stadium now and try Frank Frangie again, voice of the Jaguars joining us. Frank, and got to have this home game good afternoon almost. We're about 8 minutes away from the afternoon. What's happening?
JP, yes, it's an important game. I heard John Oger say it earlier. I think they have a good team, JP. I really believe that. But they're guys that have to feel a win. You know, sometimes basketball players shoot layups because they got to see it go through the whole hoop, right? I think this team needs to feel a win, and that's why I think this game's important. We know the next 2 games on the schedule are tough road games, but even more than that, the team needs to find some confidence. I like the way they match up with the Browns, but it's going to be a good game. The Browns are a physical team. They led the league in defense a year ago. Important game today at the bank, no question.
Frank, you know, we look at the inactives for the Browns today, and Jack Conklin, who a lot of Browns media thought would actually play last week, inactive again. So they're without their starting tackles, but maybe a surprise name for the Jags today, and Mason Smith, their second-round pick, not listed on the injury report all week, and he will not be playing today. How surprising is that to you?
Yeah, a little bit. We had heard some whispers of it. I think the thinking there, Mike, and when I hear something like that, look, it's a long year. It's one game. It's a 17-game season. The game sometimes moves fast for rookies. That's just the reality of it. Certainly, when you bring up someone like Jeremiah Ledbetter, then you're bringing up a guy that's played some in the league. I don't think it's anything more than that. I think it's maybe sit and watch. The game moved a little bit fast. I doubt Mason Smith will be down very often. I think this is a one-time thing as he kind of gets adjusted to the league a little bit. To your point about Conklin, Mike, look, if you don't have your tackles and your quarterback struggled last week and you're playing 2 pretty good pass rushing ends, which I think you are in Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker, man, that looks like advantage Jaguars. I think they're going to move the pocket some. I think Cleveland's going to move him around. They're going to get the ball out of Deshaun's hands as quickly as they can. But that's certainly a matchup I like for Jacksonville.
Frank Frangie joining us from EverBank Stadium ahead of the Browns and the Jaguars matchup. And, okay, yeah, you got to slow down 95 on the other side. That's certainly priority number 1, I think, for the offensive line today. And they're going to have some help, not just tackles one-on-one against this guy. You have to help them out today.
Yeah, it's going to be a defensive game, JP. It's got that feel to it, doesn't it? Myles Garrett might be as good a defensive player as there is in the league. I don't think the Browns are going up and down the field on the Jaguars. So if you can get any kind of a lead here like you had last week, I think it'll be harder for the Browns to come back the way the Dolphins did. But, yeah, it's a physical game. You got to find 95. And Jim Schwartz knows how to deploy him. That has really worked. The Jim Schwartz defense with Myles Garrett has really worked. So, and that's what Cleveland's got to hang their hats on today to beat I think the Jaguars have a better team. Even though Cleveland won 11 games last year, I think the Jags have the better of the 2 teams here. So if you're Cleveland, you're trying to make it a low-scoring game, and that means a big game for Myles Garrett. Jacksonville's got to find a way to block him. No question, JP.
Big game for Tank Bigsby last week, Frank, and the word is, needs to be better in pass protection if he wants to earn a larger role. But he was on the field for only 17 snaps, and they ran it with Bigsby on 12 of those occasions. Does he need to diversify a little bit in his game so it's not an obvious tell when he's on the field that he's getting the football?
Yeah, that's a great point, Mike. And I heard Jeff talking with you guys earlier about the fact that he wasn't great in pass protection. I probably don't have as good an eye for that as certainly Jeff and Tony do. but he can run the football now. The one thing the Jags didn't have, and Mike, I think, are slowly developing. I'm not saying you don't all of a sudden have Earl Campbell, all right? But I think what they didn't have was a downhill running game, and he gives them a semblance of that. That's what I think changes when he's in there. I think he's had a great offseason. He had a great camp. I think Tank Bigsby's going to be a big part of this thing. And eventually, Mike, they've got to figure out 3rd and short, right? They've got to figure out 4th and short. That has been a bugaboo now that has gone on for a while. And I think Tank Bigsby's going to have a big part of that as they figure that out. So, yeah, I like him. I like the balance. I like the fact that he's a change-up to what Travis Etienne gives you. And I think we're going to see a lot of Tank moving forward. I really do.
All right, Frank, have a great call today and bring home a win, will you? We're counting on you.
Boy, okay, fellas, we'll try. Thank you.
Frank Frangie from EverBank Stadium today as the Browns and the Jaguars get going, and we are closing in on Countdown to Kickoff. Jaguars Radio Network coverage is coming up next. We'll hear from Jaguars owner Shad Khan in about 12 minutes, live in studio. Also, pride of the Jaguars running back Fred Taylor, and the final word before kickoff with Jags head coach Doug Peterson. Browns and Jaguars coming up. Thanks for listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.